It's time for Stories from the Heart with Carol and Mark.
Hello, beautiful friends, and welcome to another Stories from the Heart with Carol and Mark.
Yippee!
Today, Mark has a story about a fly and a bee that'll both teach us something really important about our lives. Are you ready to find out what it is?
Yeah!
Ready, set, and go! The Praiseworthy Bee. One fine morning in a beautifully tiled kitchen, a very dashingly beautiful and very proud bluish-green fly met a busy bee that was toiling about helping her sisters in the making of honey. Our arrogant fly said to the bee, "Say, how do you like it when everyone runs away from you, screaming hysterically and trying their best to smash you? They all fear your sting, don't they?" "Oh, don't I know it," replied the bee. "It feels terrible. And what is worse, I don't even feel good when I sting. When I sting someone, I don't survive it. I'd die if I did it." "Very well, then," replied the fly. "Why not try to live with more grace and distinction like me? Why sting for a living?" "But you see, my friend," replied the bee, "this is not all the way it is. I feel no pleasure in hurting people. I live only to fulfill God's will. He's trusted me with a mission that benefits everyone, and when someone gets in the way of my job, I feel really worried to the point of risking my own life." The fly replied, "Oh, never mind all of that. I know that if you just look better, like me, for example, if your wings showed pretty in the sun like mine do, if you wore better colors, and if you enchant people with your looks, then your presence wouldn't be so alarming, would it? No one would fear you." "Oh," said the bee, "I can't spend so much time on my looks. I've got to work. My work doesn't allow me to look beautiful all the time. I need to make honey. It's essential for the survival of the beehive, and it's also very necessary to many people. It's a full-time job. I can't waste my time on thinking about what I look like." "Oh, but have a look at your feet, darling, won't you? They're so dirty." "I am on duty," said the bee. The fly yelled impatiently, "So be it." And without a care in the world, our fly began cleaning her wings and just sat and observed the goings-on in the kitchen. At that moment, two women with a small child came into the kitchen. As soon as one of the women spotted the bee, she screamed, "Look out! There's a bee! They sting without mercy!" The sweet bee quietly flew away, seeking the protection of her beehive. But our lazy fly stayed behind and used this opportunity to put on her pointless show. She paraded around for quite some time, showing off every bit of her beautiful wings. "Oh, look at her," said one of the women. "Isn't she a jewel?" "How pretty," said the other. After some time of gliding around, our dashingly beautiful, prideful, and conceited fly finally landed on the kitchen table. There she laid her eggs on the bread, on the fruit, and on the cake, contaminating everything in sight. She also landed on the baby's head, dropping numerous eggs on an open cut above the baby's forehead. Some hours later, the entire family felt very differently about that fly, because they were all ill. The charming jewel had spread disease all over. The same happens in real life. There are good, dedicated, and trustworthy people that seem like they're undesirable when we first see them. They're simple, they're honest, and committed to good and responsible work and higher principles. But sometimes people make fun of them about their appearance. All the while, though, these good workers perform their duty for the benefit of all. There are those, though, like the fly, with spotless looks and flashy smiles, who, after dashing us with their looks, leave us with all kinds of diseases. not just physical ones, but emotional ones. They put others down. They become selfish. They try to get away with something wrong. It's these people that we need to think about in our daily lives. Let's try to be like the bees and try to work as hard as we can for the good, knowing that we won't always get rewarded and we won't always get praised for how we look, but we will be doing the work of God's will. Yay! What a story! You know, it teaches us an important lesson. It teaches us an important lesson about those we need to treat with respect, who maybe we're not treating with respect. Do we know someone like the bee who works really hard and who really tries never to get in other people's way, and instead flies away at any opportunity to get entangled or messed up in some bad business just because they want to do good works? Do we know someone like that? And is that person made fun of for doing those good things? This can happen a lot. Like, for example, maybe there's a kid at school who tries to stay out of the business of getting involved in all the she's this and she's that, and the person just walks away and then sits down and reads a book. And maybe we make fun of that person. Is there someone like that you know? Someone who says, I don't want to be involved in making fun of people. I don't want to be involved in parading myself. So this person that you might know that other kids might make fun of, like, for example, decides not to wear the latest fashions. Not because they don't want to look good, but simply because they would rather think about other important things, like, for example, helping people. Maybe there's a person you know who's always the first to help someone, but doesn't care all that much about what they look like. So the question that we have to ask ourselves is, what kind of person do we want to be? Do we want to be the flashy person who goes around and looks the best and then flies around and shows off her wings to other people? Or do we want to be the hardworking bee who's constantly trying to do good for themselves and others? And it's so important to think about this because the story, Neo Lucio is telling us an important lesson in the story. The lesson is that the people who flash their wings around, who show off, who are constantly looking for the opportunity to say, look what I have, look what I have, look what I have, with the flashy smiles and the spotless looks, who spend hours and hours trying to get their makeup just right, and who wear the latest clothes and want to show off. Those are the people who are spreading emotions that aren't so good. They might be spreading selfishness. They're spreading emotions that put other people down, who are trying to do things that might be not so desirable. Whereas the people who might not look to get noticed are doing the good works. And those are the people who have the positive, important things to offer, that are supportive, that are really, really the emotions that we want to spread. So let's think about, next time we're around our friends, what emotions are we spreading around? We may not be the kids with the flashy looks, but are we spreading around the emotions of the flashy looks kids? Or are we spreading around the emotions of the good works kids? Are we the kid who does the good works? Or are we the kid who sits around and makes fun of others for the way they look? Who spreads prideful arrogance and making fun of people? These are the emotions that spread, as Neo Lucio says, it's almost like a disease, because once it spreads, it's hard to get rid of it, and it can affect a lot of people very negatively. So let's think about the next time we're with our friends. Think about what kind of message we're sending. What kind of emotions are we communicating? This is so important for us to think about. And it's so important that I think we all right now need to sit down, close our eyes if we can, and say a prayer. Dear God, thank you so much for this beautiful lesson of love from Neo Lucio, who's taught us a very important lesson about the kinds of people we want to be and the kinds of people we want to be around. Are we spreading a message around with others that good works are something to be made fun of? Are we spreading around a message that it's more important how we look than what we do with our lives? Are we spreading around a message that it's more important what kind of car someone drives than the fact that they might drive that car to do something important for others? Are we spreading around a message that it's more important to be thinking about how much money we have or how much time we spend with our hair than it is to take care of someone who might need emotional help and support? Let's think right now about all the messages that we send. Are we communicating good works through the types of conversations that we have, through the types of support we give other people? Or are we instead making it more difficult to do good works? Are we wasting our time with emotional stuff of selfishness? Or instead are we thinking about compassion and about caring for others? So let's now think about that as we begin once again to go off into the world thinking about how we can be of more service to Big Brother Jesus and to all those who need our help every day. And so be it. And let's think about that, guys, and gals, because it's so important to remember how we can be of service in trying to help others, because this is the message that is the most important. We know this from this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful works that we do. Hopefully we go to the Spiritist Center, but if we don't, we learn it through Kardec Radio. So let's start spreading this message at home, at school, with our friends, and let's try to be an example for others, doing good works all the time, and not thinking so much about things like the fly thinks about. And until we meet again for another Stories from the Heart with Carol and Mark, let's spread the love, okay? Bye, guys. We love you. Bye.